So let me put, okay, got it, awesome. The chat window on the side here. So can everyone see my screen okay? Okay, amazing stuff. So just to do some introductions here. So my name is Alex Chandwana, and welcome to you all for joining this introductory session to Microsoft Dynamics 365. So my name, as I've already said, I'm a solution designer for Dynamics, been working with the technology for the past 6 years now. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm also a mentor within the tech space. So there are some times where I do some mentoring to help people with interviews, to help support them on their career journey, to make sure they reap the benefits of using the technology in itself. So the whole idea about this session, as much as I would like to share with you as much information as I can about Dynamics 365, I also want you to interact with myself. So as we go along, I will ask questions, and at the same time, please do not feel that any question you might have might be a silly or stupid question. There's no such thing. We're all here to learn, and we all learn every day. That's myself included. And at the same time, for everyone, let's all be respectful to each other as well. So just to start off here, before I go on what you're looking to do tonight, can we just have people just to type in the chat window, just to see where you're located, so we just know everyone is there, and that we have enough participation as well. So if you can just, everyone, if you can just type in the chat window where you're located, and what you're looking forward to for this session, if you can, but location, it doesn't matter, it's fine. Okay, awesome. I can see everyone responding. Welcome to everyone. Manchester, Basildon, Lagos, Nottingham, Lagos. Welcome to the call. So Calgary in Canada, welcome. Barcelona, awesome. We have a mix of everyone on the call, which is fantastic stuff. So as I go through the slides, as I go through the knowledge share here, if I happen to say something you're not sure about, something you might want me to explain a bit more, please do put your question in the chat window. I understand the microphones are disabled, so just feel free to raise your hand or just put a message in there, and I'll do as much as I can to respond to that question. So what I'm looking to do for this series of Dynamics 365, initially we had put in 3 sessions. However, I realized there's quite a bit more. So I will speak to the organizing team to see if we can extend it to 4 to 5 sessions. So at the end of it, you'll come out understanding what Dynamics 365 is all about, what this whole thing people say around Power Platform is all about. So yeah, there will be some more announcements in the Telegram group, so keep tuned in that. So what we're looking to do today is Dynamics 365 business applications. We're going to look exactly what are these business applications. Customer engagement. So our main focus tonight will be surrounding the customer engagement apps. I'm going to explain to you as we go along exactly what we mean by customer engagement apps, and what they mean for yourselves, what they mean for myself, and how we can take this forward as a career, how we can make sure we learn, understand it very well. So at the same time, we're going to look at reporting side of things, and integrations. So we're going to look at integrations, reporting, customer engagement apps, business applications. So in terms of Dynamics 365, how many of you on the call have heard of Dynamics 365? If you haven't heard of it as well, please feel free to say no. If you heard of it, please go ahead and say yes. Okay, we have no's. Amazing stuff. Yep, great. Awesome. You're at the right place tonight. So we're gonna go and explain it and making sure you walk away with a takeaway from this session. So starting off here with business applications. So what we have this landscape of applications. So we mentioned business applications. These are different specific applications designed for a different use case depending on the organization. So we're talking about things like Business Central. We're talking about things like sales. So when you talk about Business Central, we're talking about a medium to large size organization looking to leverage finance, a finance application to record their financial transactions. You're talking about sales. So here, what's important for this session, we're mainly focusing on the customer engagement apps. So we're talking about sales, marketing, customer service, field service, and project service automation. So those are our main focus for this series of sessions. After those series, if we need to add the other apps as well, we can look at those. So these apps we're talking about, they are built on the Power Platform. So the Power Platform gives you 4 main pillars. So we have Power Apps, we have Power Automate, we have Power BI, and we have Power Virtual Agents. So Dynamics 365, it's a business focused application which is pre-configured for an organization. So I understand some of you here could be business analysts, you could be testers, you could be project managers. In some cases, some of you could be from a social work background, nurses, working in the security sector. This is for you as well. So there's no limitation on who can do it. So what we need to understand here is these applications, a few years ago, they used to be called Dynamics CRM, Customer Relationship Management. So as time goes on, Microsoft realized they were not catering for some of the customers, some of the organizations. So they introduced Dynamics 365. And some of you on the call, I'm pretty sure you understand the whole idea or a name called Office 365. So again, that's where the whole thing comes from, Dynamics 365, Office 365. There is a relationship there. So I will explain to you as we go along of where this relationship is. So the whole idea here, it's some of you could have heard of it or some of you could not have heard of it, but there's this word which keeps happening almost every single time, digital transformation, digital transformation. The word repeats itself. So here what we have is you have organizations who want to communicate with their customers. We have organizations who needs to know, okay, why are our customers not buying more products from us? There's organizations who want to understand what can we do to get our customers to spend more money in our organization. For those of you in UK, Tesco is a very good example. Sainsbury is a very good example. In some cases, they have buy 3 for 2. And if you remember, a few years back, they used to send you vouchers in the post. Now they don't do that anymore. They just put one advert. They know most of you are going to be on Facebook. They know most of you will be on Instagram. or some form of a social platform. They just target those areas. In some cases, you look at it, you be like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And the next thing, what you do, you give them some free advertisement. You call your friend. There is this deal at Sainsbury. There is this deal at this specific shop. Out of that free advertisement you've given them, one of you is likely to go and spend some money. And then the organization goes forward from there. So at the same time, you're engaging your customers, you're understanding the data. For those of you who go to Tesco on this call, can you just put some yeses? Anyone who normally goes to shop in Tesco? There's nothing bad I'm going to say, by the way, so don't be shy. Anyone who goes and shops at Tesco, if you can say yes in the chat window, I'm going to give you an example of exactly what happens. Okay, we have some yeses here. So if you kind of reflect a few years back at Tesco, I'm one of the people, I tend to like a cheap thing, a cheap something. I used to go a bit late at night and I'll see lots of things reduced to clear on the food section. But what you see, if you can look at the trend, you don't see that much food which says reduced to clear, because they now manage to have the data. They now know exactly what is happening around. They now know in this specific area, if you go in a Tesco, in a different location in UK, in some cases you find a product you don't find in another location. It's because Tesco know there is someone in that area called Abu who's gonna go in there and buy it. They know there's someone called James or Tom in that location. They won't buy it, so they won't have it there. So that's where this whole Dynamics 365 fits in. And at the same time, for some of you who've been in some organizations, I've been in that experience myself. You get to the office, the first thing you need to do is to sign in on a piece of paper to say you're now in the building, you're not working. You go for your break, you open the book, you write in there, you're on your break. So Dynamics 365 has made it easier for a lot of organizations. And at the same time, it makes it easier for employees. You can just basically have an app you access on your mobile device to say, yes, I'm here. I've attended work today. I'm in the building. You go for lunch. You're not waiting to say, I need to write in that book. So at the same time, you can imagine if that building catches fire, that piece of paper is gone. Whereas the way the digital applications work nowadays, that does not exist anymore because it's stored on the cloud somewhere. So the data is there. Whatever happens at your location, the data will always be there. And at the same time, organizations do not want to keep producing products which do not make them money. They want to have products which they have money from. So at the same time, some of you could be wondering, this guy is telling us about how businesses want to make money from us, how business want to target us, okay? The next thing I wanna explain here is where does this fit in for you? So you could be a business analyst in an organization as an example. So just be clear, this is not limited to a business analyst only. This is for everybody, project manager, tester, solution architect. You can mention any role you can think of. As a business analyst, you've been asked to do some analysis. So a very simple analysis, you get to the NHS. Yeah, so every single time you go to the NHS, it's said you get into those wards. The nurses, they do an amazing job. Every single time they give you medicine. And the next thing they do, they write on a piece of paper in a book to say at this point in time, we've given this patient some medicine. Okay, so at that moment in time, as a business analyst, you're kind of looking, that's a use case to start introducing digital transformation. One thing which comes into it is the cost element of it, because you now need to have some adoption for the workers so they are familiar in using technology. Where there's an iPad, you also need to ensure that they don't get stolen and the people using them know how to use it. So in most cases, when it comes to Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, you don't necessarily need to run away from your current job at the moment. You can create a job there yourself as the person who's bringing a solution to an existing problem. So that's one of the benefits with Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. So always keep that in mind. It's not about you running away from whatever you're doing at the moment. Look for the opportunities yourself as well, where you are, okay, this is what's happening here, and this is how we can do it better. So on here, again, just before I carry on, I must do with everyone, or I've lost everyone already. Anyone with any questions so far, or can I carry on? If I can carry on, yes, please. If I can re-explain something, please feel free to say it. Okay, great. So for some of you who go shopping, or some of you who travel, or some of you who engage with anyone on social media, one of the important things for an organization is to capture the data. So one thing which is important here for a lot of organization, it's the way a computer or a mobile phone works. You input the command of what you want it to do, the processor processes it, you get a result back on your screen. So in this case, the business is interested in the data. They want the data. You can be a business analyst. You can be someone doing Power BI reporting, which is a separate tool. They want to be able to analyze the data in real time. Yeah, real time. So they know how they can make strategic decisions. So one example here in terms of data, unfortunately, when the pandemic hit the whole world, for those of you who shop on Amazon, if you realize they struggled to deal with the amount of deliveries they were getting, because they've never experienced that before. They didn't have the data to prepare with. However, after a few weeks, they managed to study, analyze the data. This data can be captured in Dynamics 365. There's also competitors. There's also systems like Salesforce. Unfortunately, sorry guys, you can't ask me about Salesforce. I don't understand it, so I can't say much about it, but I can tell you it's a competitor of Dynamics 365. So Amazon captured the data of exactly what's happening. So they look at the data now. This is what our customers in this location need. They went to hire more drivers. They went to procure more of their vans. So now you see the deliverers come, you're back to Amazon Prime again. The days they tell you to deliver, they deliver. So it's one example here. So again, we're talking about Amazon, one organization here. This affected many organizations because the data was not there. But in normal circumstances, when there's not a pandemic, the organizations now have the data. They now know what is happening. So again, apologies here. I keep giving examples of Tesco, but I'm going to give you an example for example in Africa as an example here. So again, the pandemic hit. These airplane organizations, they did not know what to do. So they keep flying their aircraft with 5 people on board. It lands in Lagos, it lands in Accra, it lands in South Africa, it lands in Harare in Zimbabwe. And the data is not there. So eventually it's no more operations for them. So again, because the data was not there, there's no action for them to take. So eventually the data started coming in. They're paying more money to land at an airport than the people they're actually carrying. So the cost of them carrying people was even more, was basically non-existent. They were paying more just to land at an airport. So that's how the data is very, very important here. So in most cases, in any role you get into yourself, one thing I can advise you is to be proactive. What I mean by that is don't wait for the leadership to say, oh guys, we're struggling for data here. Can you help us out? Oh, we are struggling with this place thing here. Can you help us out? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you come out and you look, you realize an opportunity and you realize a proposed solution to fixing that problem, you are bringing value to the organization. And at the same time, it gives you a stronger position in your workplace. So here we're talking about Dynamics 365. So with Dynamics 365 here, I'm referring to the cloud. I'm not referring to on-premise. Who's familiar with the concept of a cloud and on-premise? If you're not sure, please say it and I can just explain it so we are all on the same page. But if you understand it as well, please feel free to say, yes, you understand what cloud and on-premise is. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we have some nodes there, which is fantastic. That means we can speak about it. So in terms of cloud here, we're talking about your data being stored in a secure location somewhere. So we're not talking about a computer in a desk in someone else's office or in a room within your organization. So what Microsoft have, they have things they call data centers. These data centers are the buildings which store a high powerful computer systems. So the same way for those of you who use Apple, when you send your data to iCloud, it goes up in the cloud and is stored in a remote location. Oluwasen, yeah, fantastic answer. That's great. It's hosted in a remote location. So for example, in Africa, we have Cape Town and Joburg for Microsoft. In UK, we have London and Cardiff. Again, the exact locations, you never know exactly where they are because they are high security locations. So they're basically national security buildings. So it's hard for someone to get there to even do anything stupid. So basically, yeah, here we're talking about the cloud. So we used to have the term common data service. So why I'm mentioning the old names and the new names, there are still recruiters out there who still use this name. There are still colleagues out there who still use this term. So here we have common data service. If you hear common data service, what they're talking about Dataverse. So Dataverse is where the data stays. That's where the data location is. It's basically where the database is, yeah, okay? We used to have things called an entity or entities. They're not called entities anymore. They are table and tables. So an entity is the shell where the attributes stay. So within an entity, within a table, we have things called columns, which are the fields, which are the attributes. So within that table, again, I'll go back to it. We also have relationships. We also have views. So you need to be able to remember this concept. They're very, very important. We have records. So we spoke about entities. So some of the commonly used entities, you have the account entity, you have the contact entity, you have the lead entity. Within those entities, if you're talking about a lead is a line of business which is not there. So what I mean is not there. You can go to a conference, you can go to a business meeting, someone gives you a business card. That's my business card. It doesn't mean they're interested in your service. They're just saying to you, that's my business card. It's now down to you to follow up. So in some cases, you have the business card, a salesperson calls that person. This won't be yourself, by the way. So what then happens with this lead process? That if the person answers and says, okay, yeah, I'm interested in your business, this is what I want. You then have something called a sales process, which we will cover as we go along tonight. So a lead in itself is a record. Of course, if you have multiple, we're calling them records. So now there are row and rows. So we also have option sets. So basically option sets, for those of you not familiar with it, if you go on a website, you click on the little arrow, there's a list of things you can select and you can only select one option. So in most cases, you're booking your flights, they're asking you, where are you traveling from? In most cases, you can only travel from one airport, not two of them. So you travel from one airport, of course, you can have a stopover along the way, but the departing airport is one. So you have one choice, you select one option. So in some cases, you now have a select option sets, which are now choices. So what these it's as an example here, we use Blue Sky Citadel. When you go on the Blue Sky Citadel, there is a variety of courses you can choose from. So you can have a list of the courses, you can select business analysis, you can select project management, you can select ITIL, so you can all select those in one go. So that's an example of what we're talking about when you speak about choices here. We then go on two options. Yep, that one is straightforward, yes and no. So the same way we are conversating on this session, does anyone understand this? Can we get a yes and a no? And we are getting yes and a no unless we ask for an explanation. So we're doing well in terms of using the yes and no option here. So well done, everybody. So going forward, we're going to look at the Dataverse. So the Power Platform. So can anyone on the call ever heard of this concept of Power Platform or ever heard of it anywhere? Please feel free to say yes. I won't ask you further questions just to make sure. For those of you who haven't heard of it, please go ahead and say no as well. That's welcome. Okay, so we're getting no's and yeses, which is brilliant. So we still have everyone awake, which is good as well. So in terms of the Power Platform, it's built on top of the Dataverse. So it allows you to create a rapid applications without being a developer, without any coding knowledge. So at the same time, we are talking about the Dataverse here. It includes a base of set standard tables. So there are tables which are in the background. There are tables which are easy to manage because they have the metadata, and that data is also stored in the cloud. And at the same time, you have role-based security. So no one can just jump in there and start using your data. So there's also different data types in terms of relationships. So you can have relationships being used directly in a Power App. So why Dataverse is very, very important here. For some of you who are interested in analytics, you then have this tool here called Power BI. In almost, I would say 90%, if not 99% of all organizations globally, data has become the key thing in an organization. They need to understand how their business is working. They don't need to wait until end of the month for someone to come with an Excel spreadsheet or for someone to come with a book and say, okay, yeah, this is how the business is doing. That's just tiresome. So with Power BI, for some of you who know Power BI or have used it, you have real-time data reporting. You also have snapshots. So you can basically send a report to say at 2 p.m. every day, this report needs to be sent to this person in the business. So again, do you need to understand Power BI? Yes, the answer is yes. So you can actually go and become an analytics person, just focusing on Power BI. That in itself is a role you can go into. So what's also important here for you to know, it's the Power Platform or everything Microsoft does is based on Microsoft Azure. Okay, so Microsoft Azure, that's the foundation. of what Microsoft do. So for those of you who haven't heard of Microsoft Azure, it is a platform similar to Amazon Web Services, AWS. So you have your platform, you go create your applications in there, you go create your SQL databases in there, you go and start working on DevOps from there. So that's where the foundation is. So it's important for you to always also understand that this is based on Microsoft Azure. You also have Power Apps, which I mentioned, rapid application development. So you have three main Power Apps. You have a module-driven app, which is focused or pre-configured for you. You have a Canvas app, which you have total control over of how you want the interface to look like, of what rows you need to put onto it. So when I'm talking about rows, I'm talking about fields here. You also talk about Power Automate. So Power Automate in a business case here, in most cases, when you apply to do a course at Blue Sky Citadel, in most cases, I'm pretty sure most of you get an email back to say it's been received. And within that email, what Blue Sky team probably have done, it's a process to say, okay, if a student registers here, automatically generate an email. You don't want someone to be just sitting there and say, okay, yeah, they've registered or shown interest, let's send them an email. That can be a long process. For those of you on LinkedIn, a very good use case on LinkedIn for most of you, where I've seen some have open to work, or some have opened the option to say they're available to do work. What recruiters do, they run an engine using a LinkedIn manager, which is a connector within Dynamics 365. So they look at LinkedIn, they put their keywords, they search exactly what they're after. In most cases, they'll come across Samuel, they'll come across Tolu, they'll come across Abasi, they'll come across Alex. What the system does, it picks up the name on your LinkedIn account. That's why if you see sometimes your name is Alex Chandwana, the email will come and say Chandwana Alexio, and that's not how the name is said. So the system picks it up, generates an email. So the email would have been pre-configured already. Oh, I have an interesting role for you. So you can imagine this has been sent to hundreds of candidates. So what tends to happen if you're not familiar with this kind of automation? Yeah, initially in my case, I used to feel very important and very special, but I came to realize it's being sent to lots of people. So that's where automation helps. Otherwise, the recruiter will have a nightmare of a job sitting there trying to search and contact people. So that's one use case of automation. Another use case of automation here, I think we can give you a third one. So you can imagine at your workplace, you book holiday, and in some cases, you fill in a piece of paper, and then within that piece of paper, you send an email. And then from that email, you wait for someone who approves it to reply back to you. In some cases, that person is away on holiday. So that means you're now stuck thinking, how do I go about booking my holiday? So one use case you have here, you have a combination of Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate. Power Apps, you can have an app where your employees record the holiday request. The Power Automate generates a notification to the people who are in the management team to say, okay, there's a holiday. So you can have multiple people approving a holiday here. Power BI, the organization will have the analytics to say, okay, at this phase of the month, we have a certain amount of employees who are going to be on holiday. So that's a use case where you can combine all three. So at the same time, you have Power Virtual Agents. So I'm sure most of you have seen there's lots of organizations now operating very long hours, in some cases, some 24 hours. The question is, it's hard to keep your employees there in some cases, and it can be costly. So they've gone to use Power Virtual Agents to create bots. So for those of you who've been on either on a website to go and look at holidays, to go and look at flights, to go look at your banking, you get a little pop-up on the bottom right-hand side, top right-hand side, top left, bottom left. Good day, how can I help? That's a bot you're talking to, it's not a person. So the organization train these models to understand their customer requirements. Eventually it sends you to an article to say, okay, this is what you need, have a look at that. You can imagine for the World Health Organization, everyone is looking for advice on how to deal with coronavirus. They want to use the same mechanism here. People are going to be asking coronavirus symptoms. Just used to send you a link, you click on the link, you start having a nice little read. And at the end of it, as much as you are nervous, you feel a bit comfortable because you have some information to understand, okay, this is what I need to do. So those are some of the use cases. There's no reason why no one can use this technology. So in some organizations, they'll use Power Virtual Agents. In some organizations, they won't. So we also have data connectors. So talk about data connectors here. You can have an application connecting to a website. So how many people here follow football? If I can get some yeses for anyone who follow or watch football or soccer. In some areas, they call it soccer, right? Anyone who follows football or soccer? Okay. We have a yes here. So we can connect to a website. So at the same time, what I mean by that, you can either connect with your app to your website, you can connect with Power BI. What is the use case? So during the World Cup, I've actually seen a live demo of this. During the Euros, actually, someone connected to the UEFA website, and they managed to source the data from there. And within Power BI, they were getting the performance of every single player participating in the championship. They were getting who's the top goal scorer. They were looking at the goalkeepers, who's performing well and who's not. So those are some of the use cases. So if you look at the FA and almost every football club across the globe now, they're relying on data. They look at the data, they do some analysis. And if you, for some of you who have said they follow football, a few years ago, they used to rely heavily on scouts. They'll travel on these private jets, commercial airlines, to go and say, okay, yeah, I need to go and look at this football player. I want to see what he's performing like today. Most of the time now, they don't do that. They look at the data, do some analysis. They say, okay, yeah, we're going to go and buy this player. If it's for the national team, you can imagine, for example, here we give an example of the Super Eagles. They have so many players dotted around the world. If you think how much time it would take for these scouts to travel around to look at these players, and in some cases, looking at a player once doesn't give you the right detail. So now they plug in these sources, they look at the data, they have people like yourselves who are the analysts, who are the project managers, looking and say, okay, this is our project, this is the data we're getting as an analyst, this is what our football is doing. And then once they have that, they make a decision. Yeah, so once they make a decision, they go and buy the player. So we have some football clubs are employing data analysts now. Yes, great, that's 100% right, because they rely heavily on the data. They want to know the performance of their players. Moneyball strategy, yep. So you have those kind of things happening nowadays. So again, it just shows you the importance of data. We also have something called AI Builder, which is Artificial Intelligence Builder. So artificial intelligence has become very, very strong and very important. So why it's become very important? from an organizational point of view, organizations need to gain the intelligence of what's happening either to their product or either to their customers. So I can give you how artificial intelligence has helped the Metropolitan Police in the UK. So the Metropolitan Police went to implement Dynamics 365. So it's a project I've been involved in myself. So they have that application. So what they do with these Dynamics applications and artificial intelligence, they plug into social networks. So when the government announced in the UK that they are cutting down on police officers, there was a massive uproar, but no one managed to understand exactly what was actually happening. So they went to use this artificial intelligence to plug into Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all these social media platforms. So they have lots of analysts now on the ground, sitting in a building somewhere. They analyze the data and they look at the intelligence, and they're able to rapidly deploy their officers to these locations. So again, in some cases, artificial intelligence, it relies on humans to actually train it so it understands exactly what's happening in its surroundings. So a very good example for those of you who've been watching the news in the past weekend too, you had the protesters on the M25. So in one case, the first instance, for example, Essex Police, they took a bit of time to actually manage the situation. But again, it's because either the intelligence has been missed, but however, on the second occasion, when it happened, the moment they went on the road, the police were there. So they had the intel already at this point. So again, it just shows you the importance of intelligence. So in some cases, if you want to look for an airline as an example, an airline which is traveling to some nice destinations, it knows when their customers travel. It knows when the customers are likely to travel. And at the same time, for those of you who like to go and look for cars, bicycles, any products online, what you tend to see most of the time, you tend to start seeing adverts randomly because they now know, okay, yeah, you're looking for this. You start getting offers. Eventually you give in and you say, okay, let me go and give it a try. Let's have a look at it. So those are some of the powers of artificial intelligence. And then you have your Dataverse where your data is. So you can basically interact from Power Apps to Dataverse. So on that note, I think I've kind of run quite a lot of things here. Does anyone has any questions so far before we carry on? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Like I said from the beginning, I'm here to learn from you. I'm here to share the information I have. So it's a two-way thing. There's no stupid or silly question here. Any questions from anyone? Okay, so get silent, we're okay to carry on. So we're going to look at the customer engagement apps, which I mentioned we're going to look at this evening. So there are 5 of these applications for Dynamics customer engagement. So the name you normally hear out there is Dynamics 365 CE. So it's rare you hear someone saying Dynamics 365 customer engagement. Normally you see Dynamics 365 CE. The same way when we say Niger, if someone says Niger, we know what they're saying, right? Someone says Zim, we know what they're talking about, right? So Dynamics 365 CE, we know what they're talking about. So they're talking about marketing. They're talking about customer service. They're talking about sales. They're talking about field service. They're talking about project operations. So for those of you who joined us right in the beginning, I did mention we'll need to add additional 2 sessions on this series. Reason being, we need to cover each individual one of these. So on this session today, we are going to cover Microsoft Dynamics 365 sales. So Dynamics 365 sales, the whole idea behind it, it's to help organizations engage with their customers, to help organization to manage their sales pipelines. So like I mentioned earlier, you have a lead which then turns into an opportunity. The opportunity will be associated to an account, which is a company. Within a company, we have employees, we have workers, right? So those workers are contacts when you speak about Dynamics 365 and when you speak about people. So you want the organization to win more business. We want organization to be able to sell more. That's the whole idea of a business, right? And also making sure the employees are happy. So in this case here, we're talking about sales. The sales itself is not just from a company to company. So we have business to business, which is B2B. So we can have customers, which are other businesses. So a very good example here, you can say an example of British Airways. So British Airways or any airplane company, sometimes they have that lovely food they give us when we jump on there. So that food comes from another company. So is British Airways a business and the food company doing business? So B2B, business to business, but in that interaction of exchanging money, one of them becomes a customer. And at the same time, we also have business to customers, so to individuals. So we spoke about business to business, which is that food giant supplying mass food to British Airways. In this case, this is our Honorable Deji. He's going into Marks and Spencer, he's bought his sandwich. He's just buying a sandwich in there. Marks and Spencer are not saying to Mr. Deji, buy the whole shelf of sandwiches. So here it's a business to customer. So Marks and Spencer saying, yeah, here's the sandwiches, just take one or two you want. And in some cases, you have a hybrid. Yeah, so people can be businesses, the customers can be the businesses or the individuals. So in this case here, I'll give an example of Mercedes-Benz. So Mercedes-Benz, they sell their cars through dealerships. So in most cases, they don't sell the cars themselves directly. So you go to the dealership. So in one case, the dealership is representing Mercedes-Benz. And then we have an organization which is going to buy multiple vehicles for their employees from Mercedes. And at the same time, you also have an individual who can go and buy multiple cars for their business. So again, here it can also be hybrid, the interaction. So what we're speaking about here, we spoke about the models which are Dynamics 365 applications support. So it's very, very important for you to remember this. So you're talking about, as an example, if Microsoft was an account within Dynamics 365, right? Anyone want to guess who could be a customer of Microsoft here? If we're talking about Microsoft themselves as an organization, who could be a contact for Microsoft? Anyone want to guess? Everyone still here, or I've kind of bored you away or something like that? Please, anyone want to guess? Okay, we have Blue Sky. Okay, Michael, yeah, nice. Anyone else? Blue Sky, okay. Okay. Anyone else? We have two so far. Okay, we have Accenture. Okay. Okay, great. So we're getting names here coming up. So this is great. Can see everyone interacting now, which is nice to see. So we mentioned about a company having employees, right? So a company having a contact. So a contact is the employee, right? So in this example, if we speak about Microsoft, an example of an employee we can give there is Bill Gates himself. So if we speak about Blue Sky Citadel, we can speak about contacts, the administration team you interact with. You say, okay, do we have a class tonight? Or I cannot seem to see this information. So this person is someone in Blue Sky. So why that person is in Blue Sky as a contact, they're the person who have the capacity to start this Zoom call. They have an administration account, which I don't have, which you don't have. So that person is the contact. So for those of you, let me just go back to some of the names mentioned here. So we also have Accenture. So if you speak about Accenture, if you're speaking about contacts, you're speaking about someone like the business development manager. You're speaking about the project management team in there. So those are the contacts. So again, you're speaking about Dell, yeah. So the companies are coming up great, which is fantastic. So within Dell, there are employees. Within any organization, there are employees. So you cannot have Tesco without employees. So we have Tesco, the contacts are the employees. And the customers is myself and everyone else going out there to buy. Yeah. And thank you so much, everyone, for being interactive on this. That was really awesome. So within an account, so what I want you to remember here, when we speak about an account, we can be speaking about a company. We can be speaking about a business. We can be speaking about Blue Sky Citadel as the company in this example. Blue Sky Citadel, if I see there's a high volume of amazing people who are part of Blue Sky. So in an example, we have 87 people on this call. If you can think there's only one person, if for example, you give Bolaji as an example as the contact in Blue Sky, it can be a massive task for Bolaji to manage everybody who is on the call right now. So that's why an organization, a company can have multiple contacts. So you need to remember an organization can have multiple contacts. At the same time, for someone who said Accenture, if you are dealing with Accenture, if I'm looking to do business with Accenture, I don't directly go to the CEO of Accenture, or I don't go to someone from Avanade, because Avanade and Accenture have the partnership, right? So I don't go and say, okay, this is the CEO, can you set up a meeting? There is channels you go through, right? So there will be a point of contact. And in most cases, the point of contact is not the highest valued person. So you go through a specific chain of things for you to get there. So in Dynamics 365, there will be the parent customer or the parent contact. So that's the person you get to in the first instance. So yeah, so you need to remember this concept here, that an account and accounts can be related to one another in various ways. So again, you start talking about relationships here, one to many. So in some cases, it's difficult to get contacts who work for multiple organizations. It does happen, but it's a rare occurrence. So what I mean by that, you cannot be at Dell, IBM, Microsoft, and Tesco as an example, 4 organizations in one go. Mostly is 1 or 2. So that's something which I would highly recommend you remember that. So apart from just showing you this on a diagram, As we go along, it's going to get your point. I'm going to actually show you so you can actually see how it looks like. So moving on, we're talking about activities here. So when you have activities, you're talking about a task. So what I'm now talking about here, we're talking about a salesperson making a call to a customer. The question here is, a few years back, before technology became a bit more clever, we used to have our salesperson just writing numbers. Yes, I've spoken to this person. And in that sequence, in some cases, it's not actually true. So with Dynamics 365 now, you actually have the functionality. You make a phone call to a customer from Dynamics 365. It automatically records what you have spoken about. It transcribes it. And then there's a record of it. So again, it's not about tracing or closely monitoring employees, but it's about making sure you have the right data for your business. It's about making sure everything you are doing in your organization is audited. So you're talking about an email. So one thing, if you're working here as a team, so let's take Blue Sky as an organization. We're working together, and I've been working on an email for a business deal on behalf of Blue Sky, and that email is just within my inbox. In some cases, if I delete it and leave the organization, there's no trace of someone who can take over and say, okay, this is where Alex left off from. This is how we can move forward. So why Dynamics 365 is very important with these activities. They are also role-based. You can have security roles to limit who can update the records, to limit who can delete the records. So again, most importantly here, what you need to understand is how do you make use of this data yourself to help an organization understand these analytics, to help an organization store this data securely. So in some cases, you get an assignment as a project manager to say, we have our system on premise. So I think if I go back a bit, one of our colleagues mentioned it very well, the difference between on-premise and on the cloud. They say to you, we want to move from on-premise, we want to go to the cloud. The next thing is your task here. There are some capabilities or functionalities which are not available on-premise, but they are available on the cloud. So you need to ensure those are documented. You need to look at how they affect the business. So at the same time, you could have hundreds of these emails, phone calls, and tasks. So what's important is for you to be able to show the organization that these can be filtered by date. You can also just say, okay, I want to look at emails alone. You can go and click here, activity type, and just select email. It just shows you emails alone. So it's one of those key capabilities which are available in Dynamics 365 to help track these interactions with the customers, with the other businesses they might be interacting with. So it's also important for you to understand this does exist. So talking about activities, we also have timelines. So in terms of timelines, what we have is like a snapshot. So, okay, this is what happened. The opportunity was opened, the business deal was closed, the business deal is still in progress. There was an email between Deji and Samojeje. So we need to be able to look at those interactions. So if you can think of what we are just seeing a few slides back here, this is just emails, right? So in some cases, it's very tricky. So what you can see on this slide here, this is specific to this contact. So this is the interaction for this specific contact. So we can speak about emails. We can talk about either they've sent an email themselves, not happy about the service we're giving them. It's important for the organization to be able to analyze the data and help improve that customer engagement, so the customer is happy, so the customer keeps business with them. So again, the timeline is something you also need to be aware of. And at the same time, what we're talking about here, we're talking about the records and we're talking about the data being populated here. So what you're seeing here is what the salesperson or someone responsible on the front end will populate. It's rare that you'll be asked to populate this data unless they have an Excel spreadsheet and they want to import it. We're going to speak about Excel shortly, is coming up. And at the same time, these here is not every organization or company which wants to say business phone or mobile phone. So they might ask you to say, okay, we don't really want this, can you relabel it? So you need to understand that, okay, if I relabel it, what is the impact of it? So we're speaking about impact of changing this. So what I mentioned earlier, within a table, you have views. Views can be used as an out-of-the-box capability to source data, which is in Dynamics 365. So you also need to make sure what impact is it doing to the view? Is it going to display well? Is it going to display where it's meant to be? So you need to kind of make those considerations. So here, speaking about views, so what you're seeing here, this is a view. So with the view, you can see the main headers here, account name, main form. So here is a very, very good example. What you can see here, you do not see it very well. So a good use case here, you can go in the customizations area and expand this so it does not truncate the way it is. But again, it depends on how the use case is. But as a good practice, make it better so it looks the same way account name looks like. So in here, you can use views to have out-of-the-box analytics, so it doesn't have to be Power BI. You can just look at the data here. So this here relies on a specific criteria in the background. So that criteria is the one we source data. So you can say you want to look at accounts created this week or in the past 7 days. You can say you want accounts which has been created by a specific person. So at the same time, you have your data here. And at the same time, you also have these charts here. So these charts here gives you more possibilities. You can now drill down into the data to understand it a bit more. So once you start playing around with your dashboard here, it can also be interactive and change the data you're viewing here. So for example, if you're talking about entertainment, here's an example. If you click here, you should hopefully see 4 records here if you have set up your dashboard correctly. So this is some of the use cases you have. So in a use case, which we can also have in terms of this chart here, we can start saying, okay, let's look at how many people attended the Dynamics 365 session, the first one, how many people attended the second one, how many people attended the third one. Then that will help us understand, okay, we had a consistent of the same people from the first session to the second. We had more new people on the second than the first. Then Blue Sky can start thinking, okay, how do we then put everything together so everyone understands, so no one is staying behind? So these are some of the use cases you have. So these are very, very commonly used in organizations. So going here, you also have dashboards. So you can have data presented in here. So again, as it says, you can have views, iframes, web resources, and charts. So ideally, this visualization for normally the leadership, they just want to see the data straight away. They want to make sense with the data. They don't want to be putting a calculator out. So I got someone asking to zoom in. Okay, just give me 1 second. Zoom in. Is that better? Okay, awesome. So yeah, so you can have the data displayed like that. So for example, here in this one here, you're talking about all opportunities. And in this example, you're talking about open leads. So these are possibilities of lines of business. It's not confirmed, there are possibilities. Whereas if you have opportunities, you're talking about money. If you see there's now estimated revenue here. And at the same time, you've signed the contracts. These are the opportunities which have been won. You start seeing, okay, this opportunity was won here. This is where the business came from. Okay, so just go back to this. And then we're gonna go to the next option. So in here, within Dynamics 365, so this is not something additional, it comes out of the box. So normally you hear the name OOB. They're talking about out of the box capabilities. So it can be a reporting side of things. So in here, you have reports which you can create yourself. So you basically either need to capture the requirement from the business, and then you say, okay, yeah, this is the data we need. We need to look at accounts created within the last 30 days, and then run the report. So you can save this report, and at the same time, you can share it with the people who needs access to it. So an example, you can see, this is an example of an out-of-the-box report, which someone can just request from you. So it can be for opportunities, it can be for if you see this one here is for competitors and opportunities. So you need to also remember, you might go to an interview and they say to you, can you tell us some of the out-of-the-box reporting capabilities? This is one of them. And you need to be able to know, okay, you have reports, you have views, you have charts, you have dashboards. At the same time, what is a big advantage Microsoft Dynamics has is the ability to be able to integrate with other applications. So at the same time, what I mean by that, you can expand it. You can start using Power Apps within Dynamics 365. You can use Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Word, Excel, and SharePoint. For those of you, I'm pretty sure some of you have heard of some of these things. So these are some of the common integrations. They're not, this is not just a limitation. There's a whole lot of them. But just to give you the flavor here, I'm going to go through these. So you're talking about Microsoft Word. So you can have templates. So you can create your own templates to say, okay, if this invoice has been paid, you need to generate this template. So just before I carry on, I have a question. Someone says, please, can you explain the hybrid option again? Can you just elaborate? Do you mean a hybrid as in terms of installation, or we speaking about in terms of interaction between customers? Okay, so in terms of interaction like B2B, okay, awesome. So a hybrid customer, you can have a business as a customer in one instance, and you can also have an individual representing an organization. So what I mean by that is you have the example of British Airways buying food from that food company, just buying directly, and it's mass production there. And at the same time, you can also have an individual buying food from that food shop. So that person is not a massive organization like British Airways, but they are a customer. They are buying food from that location. So as much as they are a customer, the same way British Airways is a customer, there is a business to business between British Airways and then there is an individual interacting with the food company. I hope that helps answer that question. Okay, awesome. Nice stuff. So in terms of word templates, you can create your templates, and these templates, you can map these templates to source the data you need from a specific table, from a specific row. So, okay, this is the data we need. So basically, when you're in Dynamics 365, on a click of a button, it generates the document. In most cases, depending on your use case, it goes and generates the name of the company or the name of the contact and gets their address. So you're not typing their address anymore. It automatically does it. And in most cases, what you see when you order your stuff online in the middle of the night, you just have like an invoice. In most cases, yes, it's generated from a system like that. So it just generated and off it goes. So there's no one sitting there trying to say, okay, yeah, I need to type this to this person. So for those of you who have at some point or another missed a payment for direct debit from a bank, in some cases, after 2 or 3 days, you get a letter through the post telling you missed a direct debit payment. So it's not someone who sits there and says, I need to write a letter to you. Can assure you all your banks, they all love you, but it's not someone sitting there typing in a letter. It's done by a system, just auto-generates it. And then the next thing someone just does is to put in an envelope and send it to you. That's what tends to happen at that process. So this is an integration which you see within Dynamics 365. So by default, it's already in there. The key thing is just for you to start utilizing these options available. And then you also have Excel. So what you can see here, you can have Excel online. So one thing I need to make it clear here, if you're using Excel online, this is dependent on you using Dynamics 365 in an environment where Office 365 is. So what I mean by that is you need to have Dynamics 365 in an Office 365 tenant. If you use Dynamics outside Office 365, you lose this integration. So you have Excel online where you can just open Excel in Dynamics and start populating your numbers. One thing I can advise you, it can be very dangerous if you make any mistakes. Things can go horribly wrong. So if you happen to use this functionality, please take extra care. So you have Excel integration, as you can see it. I'm pretty sure some of you a few weeks ago, you went through an Excel course at Blue Sky. So Excel comes in handy with that Dynamics 365. So you can work with the data in Dynamics 365. You can work with it outside and bring it back in. So those are some of the integrations and possibilities which you get with Excel. You also have collaboration. You need to discuss some of these opportunities or leads with your organization, with your colleagues. So one thing here, it's Microsoft have made it very a generous offer. So what they do now is you can have Microsoft Teams in Dynamics 365, start having conversations. So what happens here? So someone says, kindly go back to 3 before 4K. I've mixed up my slides, apologies. So free is coming forward. So the free one will be SharePoint. Thanks, Rosemary. So in here, you can start having communication. So what I mean in terms of a use case here, it's you could have an opportunity. You need either a manager or someone within a specific team to look at. So it gives the opportunity for a shared workspace, basic in simple terms. It gives the opportunity for you to either start working on a document together within Microsoft Teams, and this document will be stored in number 3, which has been mentioned, which we'll go through shortly. And then you also have Dynamics 365 app, which is available on Microsoft Teams as part of the existing Dynamics 365 app. So this gives the sellers or someone in a sales team a simple to use experience to combine the data with multiple sources. So Office 365, that's Microsoft 365. So if you're talking about Office 365, in most cases, we're just talking about Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Microsoft 365, we're talking about the wider picture, Microsoft Teams, Exchange. So that's something which I would recommend to keep in mind as well. So this is what's meant to be number 3, SharePoint. So in terms of SharePoint, you can have an integration with SharePoint where you can store your documents. Reason why documents in SharePoint, it provides a cost-effective document storage mechanism. However, in recent months, Microsoft have changed the pricing mechanism for document storage. So we spoke about Dataverse. So Microsoft now gives you a cheaper option of storing data in Dataverse, as this now goes to a blob storage, which is cheaper. So the option for you to use SharePoint is available there. You can look at where the document location is. You can edit the location. You can also restrict the permissions. So how you restrict the permissions is if you are using business units within your organization, and at the same time, you can also leverage Power Automate to copy the permissions from Dynamics 365 to SharePoint. So document storage, you now have 2 possibilities, Microsoft SharePoint and Dataverse. So again, it will be considerations on what the use case is. So in my current project myself, the organization doesn't allow SharePoint to be used for this. So I have to go and propose Dataverse. So there are some limitations on either solution you have. So in some cases, you're talking about antivirus scanning. So that mechanism is already within SharePoint. And the next thing is to consider, does Dataverse give you such capability? So we kind of went through the numbers in a very strange way. I have to apologize on that. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again in future. So we're gonna go from 3 now. Since we've gone to 4, we're gonna go to number 5. So we have someone says, is Microsoft SharePoint similar to a Google Drive? So a Google Drive is similar to OneDrive. So OneDrive, it's the Microsoft storage version, which is OneDrive. You store your data on the cloud, you log in from different locations the same way we do with Google Drive. SharePoint is slightly a bigger animal as compared to a Google Drive. So going to number 5, you can integrate a Canvas app within a model-driven app. So Dynamics 365, a model-driven app, and you can integrate a Canvas app here. So again, just showing you the possibilities. So you don't necessarily need to go to an organization and introduce this in one go. It's very, very good practice for you to know these are the options and organizations can use. So you can have this Canvas app reading data from other sources like a SQL database, from a third-party application, and then embed it within Dynamics 365. So again, the visualization can be done in the context of the specific record. So in this example, it shows you the account and it tells you the contacts here. It's actually showing you the pictures. In some cases, it can be for an opportunity. So it depends with the context. It depends with the use case. So is everyone okay with that for now? Yes, okay, we're getting a yes. The next question I have is, am I allowed to ask a question from you guys? If it's okay, I would appreciate that. It's not to trick you, just to make sure we are okay. If I can ask a question, I only got 3 questions to ask, and then we go to the next one. So we have spoken about Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps. We've spoken about integration. So I have some questions here. I just kindly ask if we can go one by one in terms of these questions. So if you want to answer, just feel free to put in the chat window. So in here, which out of the box integration will be ideal to enable better collaboration and effectiveness with Dynamics 365? So the first one here, if I can get some answers in the chat window, we have Azure as an answer, we have Office 365, we have Microsoft Teams, and we have Slack. So if I can just get anyone just to put answers in there, and we'll see where we are. Okay, impressive. So we have a variation of answers here. So in terms of better collaboration within Dynamics 365, we're talking about Microsoft Teams. So if we need to enable Microsoft Teams to help with collaboration, co-author documents, ask for opinions from our managers, Microsoft Teams is the out-of-the-box integration, in this case, what we discussed this evening. So we move on to the second one. Which applications can be integrated with Dynamics 365 to provide document management capabilities that include versioning and collaboration? So we have Word, Excel, and SharePoint. See, everyone here is amazing. Great. I'm great. I'm so happy we're still together. So yep, SharePoint is the right answer here. And then the third one, which searching or filtering options will be used if you wanted to display a list of accounts? So accounts, companies, or businesses with open orders. Advanced filter, quick find, categorized search. So we're talking about filtering options which will be used if you want to display a list of accounts with open orders. Okay. Fantastic stuff. Yep, advanced filter is the right answer. So I do apologize. I've spent almost an hour and 30 minutes just talking. I tend not to want to speak too much. I tend want you to engage and have some hands-on experience as well. So the next question I have for you here has any of you had an opportunity to try this technology or know how to try this technology? Whether it's Dynamics 365, Teams, Power Apps, Office 365, anyone ever tried how to use the technology? Okay, we have a yes, great. Some no, yes, awesome. And anyone else, everyone else, you okay with that? Yes, yes. Okay, great. So for those of you who have said yes, fantastic stuff. For those of you who have said no, again, that's great stuff. So one of the things which Microsoft give you for learning purposes, I have to emphasize, not for business, learning purposes, they give you something which is called a developer program. So what a developer program does, it gives you the capability to set up an environment. And once you set up an environment, you can now start playing around with the technology, seeing how things work. You can also have a Dynamics 365 trial. So the Dynamics 365 free trial, what it gives you 30 days within your developer program. This developer program here, as long you use it to empower yourself to learn, the first initial you get is 3 months. After 3 months, if you're using it, it gets automatically extended. So in simple terms, it's for life. You don't pay anything. There's no credit card details required. All you just need is to sign up. You also have Microsoft Learn. So what you have here, I've deliberately mentioned it and say group practical. And I'm really excited. I hope most of you, or if not all of you, can spend another Tuesday evening with myself next week. And this here, what you have is homework. So I want you to go and explore it. And on our next session, the very starting point will be to have a look at what we have set up. If someone is having any issues, then we can start off on that session. We'll spend 15 minutes setting it up if everyone is still having issues. If not, we'll be looking at marketing. So on that note, I don't want to overfeed you with a lot of information, but I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. Please, it's an open floor. Feel free to ask anything. And as I said from the beginning, let's all be respectful to one another as well when these questions come up. So okay, great. So great question. Can you paste these links in the chat window? Yes, not a problem. So let me just get these links in here for you. Copy. And then I'm just pasting the links. So someone just asking what's the homework again. So the homework will be for you to set up a developer program environment or a developer program tenant, which will be your play area as we go through this session. So what you see with these sessions, there will be some element where we actually go in the environment, and it will be good for you to know exactly where these things are, apart from me just telling you. So those two links are the most important one. The third one is a very, very special link as well. It also helps you to start learning the journey within Dynamics 365 or anything Microsoft does. So again, I'll go back to the question, does anyone has any questions? Please feel free to ask. And now for those of you who wish to connect, we have a Facebook group which I run myself, and that's my Twitter handle. And that's myself on LinkedIn. If you want to connect, feel free to connect. And we also have a group on LinkedIn where we share some links and we collaborate with other industry professionals just to share this information and just to help everyone as well embark on the journey. So please, you would make my night if you can ask some questions. I know some questions could be difficult, but if I can't answer the question, I will honestly tell you I don't know. So someone is asking, would there be a subscription to set up our environment? So in terms of subscription, there's no payment for it. You will not be asked for any credit card details. All they just need is your email address, and they'll ask you what name do you want to name your organization. So there's no payment whatsoever. If you happen to see anywhere it's asking you to put any payment, please close the page and ignore it. So this is absolutely free from Microsoft. You do not pay anything. So someone is asking, are you able to share these links as well? So when you say links, do you mean the links to share the environment, or you mean the links to connect? Okay, awesome. Not a problem. I'll just share that in the chat window. So understand this session is scheduled for another 27 minutes. And I would be really upset to give you that time back. So I'm gonna start a conversation and see how we go with it. So we have a question. Yep, awesome. So we have a question now. Please, what is the relationship between software testing and Microsoft Dynamics? So Microsoft Dynamics is still software. So you will still go through your unit testing, your regression, your end-to-end testing. So definitely testing is a requirement on this. So I can tell you on the project I'm working on for Dynamics at the moment, we currently have 10 testers testing Dynamics 365 only. They're not developing, they're just testing. So, okay, so just to give you a short story here. So for some of you either who has not embarked on the journey into tech. So, okay, there's a question. Did you say we can use, okay, you say we can use the toolings for life if they're actively used without payment? So the first link, which is the developer program, that's for life. The second link, it gives you 30 days because Microsoft, I firmly believe after 30 days, all of you on this call here, you'll be champions, you'll be specialists with this thing, with the support from the Blue Sky team. So 30 days, after 30 days, if you need to use it again, you just basically you just edit back in the environment, and I will show you next week on how you can do that. Someone is asking, do you need certification? The answer is yes, and the other answer is no. So the yes answer, to validate you understand what you're doing and you understand the product, yes. The no answer is it's very important to understand the product. There's no point of having a certification if you don't understand the product. If you understand the product, you go to an interview, straight away, you are there. We now have, okay, question about the trial. We've answered that, that's 30 days. We have a question is, what sort of salary can you expect once you are proficient in Dynamics as a tester? So in terms of salaries, one of the things I can tell you, it depends of how hungry you are. So I've seen some salaries range from 40K. I've seen some get as far as 75, 80. It just depends on how much you want to push it. So how much you can go and get yourself in the first instance, the person who can make that decision will be yourself once you're proficient. But again, there's wide opportunity. So I'm talking about permanent roles here. You can go as far as contracting. You can go 450, 500, 600. It just depends of where you are. So the opportunities are limitless. So to set up a developer tenant, we need some steps to set this up. Can you share this? Okay, so great question in terms of steps. So that's why we have said is homework. So if you get stuck, don't you worry. On the next session, we can show you how you do that. But if someone can go through it, it will be great. There isn't much, but of course, as if you haven't done it before, it can be challenging. But give it a try and see how it goes. What is the basic difference between Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365? So Dynamics 365 is an app. It's a model-driven app. It's an application. It's software. Microsoft 365, you have quite a wide range of components involved in Microsoft 365. So you have things like Exchange, you have SharePoint, you have Outlook, you have Microsoft Word in there. So where else Dynamics 365 does not have Exchange? Dynamics or Microsoft 365 is more of a platform which is hosting other applications. So Dynamics 365 is an application. It's a model-driven app. Please, I have Word documents which were blocked. How would I open them? So in terms of that, you have Word documents which were blocked. If you can explain to me in what context were these blocked? Is this from an organization point or exactly what you mean by blocked? Then I can be able to best give you an answer on that. So how would we test in this sort of environment? Would it be manual, automation, both, or am I guessing C#.NET environment? So you can do automation, and there are elements which definitely require manual testing. So you can do 60 to 70% automation testing, but there'll always be a requirement for manual testing for it. There are things which you won't be able to achieve with automation testing for it. So please, can you explain more about the third link? So the third link is Microsoft Learn. So you can walk away from this session and think, okay, what this guy was talking about is not for me. It does not interest me. So one recommendation I always say is do what interests you. That's what makes it easier for you to learn. So on Microsoft Learn, it has everything Microsoft do, and they give you the resources for you to learn. You don't pay for them, you just learn them. But again, the importance of having Blue Sky here is the opportunity for you to ask from the experience of people who have gone out there for so many years and done it. So you have Mr. Deji, who organizes this, who came up with this whole idea of a Blue Sky, and the other colleagues involved. So you get the opportunity to interact and understand a bit more. So interacting with others is slightly different than just reading something. So that's where the importance is of having such an amazing platform like Blue Sky here. So what is the best steps to get into testing job? So that's a very good question. And the answer I can give you there is, I don't know, because I've never done testing myself in my career. So I think, again, I just mentioned about Blue Sky, and we have Mr. Deji, and I'm sure there's other colleagues here. So I think Mr. Deji will be in a better position to give you an answer on the best steps to get into testing. So once you have completed the internship, start applying for jobs. Yeah, the answer I can say there is yes, but what I would also honestly say is also be honest with yourself, where you are. If you have any questions, do ask other people who have done it. Don't just say, okay, yeah, I finished the internship, I'm gonna go out there straight away. Get some tips and tricks. I've seen sessions hosted on Blue Sky preparing colleagues for employment. So join those sessions, understand what is it you need to do. What is it you need to prepare for when you go for an interview? So what is the best path to follow for a business analyst on Dynamics 365? So on Dynamics 365, that's a very good question. Microsoft have moved away from using mainly the name of business analyst alone. They've kind of added something on top. So they call them functional consultants. So if you see a role saying functional consultant, it is a business analyst who can do basic configuration. So the best path to follow is to understand the fundamentals and keep your analysis skills up to date. Just making sure the analysis skills are great and understand the technology. So those fundamentals and your analysis skills would then take you there. So there's absolutely no reason why you cannot do it with that format. Any question? Please feel free to ask any questions you want to ask. Please feel free to ask those questions.
Can I quickly add something, if that's okay, Alex?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say for those guys asking about the BA role or the QA role, actually, so there are organizations that are using Dynamics, so they might also need BA to be able to write requirements as well for that applications. And if that application is developed in Dynamics, of course, there will be testing or QA also. And I think myself and Alex, we actually met in the consultancy role where I was a QA lead actually at that particular time. So yeah, so this is one of the tools that they use nowadays, and it's from Microsoft. So even there will be QA role in this capacity. So, and I've seen some jobs as well that you will need a Dynamics experience actually. But to be honest, one thing is like there's no difference on how you're going to test them or how you're going to write a BA story for them. But it's only that they want people that got that experience, and you can speak that terminologies when you talk about entities, contact, as Alex is mentioning. So having that little exposure that you're having tonight will actually made a lot of difference, and also for even make your CV to even be highlighted actually, because you have exposure to it. Yeah. In terms of data analysis, I think Alex also mentioned this in the beginning, how this tool is used for AI and also for data related. So maybe I will leave Alex to kind of expand on that one.
Yes,
thanks.
Thank you, Deji. So what is the prospect for data analyst? Also, what area would you advise a data analyst to focus on? So in terms of data analyst, we're talking about data. So we're talking about looking at the data coming in. So in some cases, what you'll see in some organization, the data is not clean data. So what I mean is not clean data, is not easily easy to analyze it. So what I mean by that is that you can have organization capturing a lot of free text. So for example, you have a field or you have a row where I can just go and type in orange. Someone goes and types in apple. Someone goes and types in the name with a different spelling. So that data is difficult to analyze. So what you want to focus on is the data capture, how the data is captured. What kind of data are you capturing? Are you capturing quantitative data or qualitative data? You need to be able to make that call. And at the same time, focusing on Power BI. So Power BI itself, it's a very, very useful tool used by many now. So with that developer program, you also get the opportunity to have the hands-on experience and to start creating some dashboards and start seeing how they work. So once you master those elements, it becomes much easier for you to kind of say, okay, yeah, understand this is the data coming in. So you might start thinking, okay, yeah, but where do I get the data from right now? So you can go and look. So for example, if you look at Heathrow Airport, if you're in UK or wherever you are, every website you have there's an endpoint for it. So you can get that endpoint, connect it to your data source in Power BI, start analyzing the data of saying, okay, yeah, this is what's happening. So there's some specific data they allow you to have, start doing some analysis on it. And once you start doing that, you familiarize yourself with it. So on Microsoft Learn, the third link I shared, it gives you a guided step-by-step of how to actually build a dashboard for yourself. So Word was added to PC when it was bought, and after it was expired, the documents were saved in the cloud. And when I open it, cannot allow me to edit. Okay, so basically, if your license expires for Office 365, you can only read your documents. They won't allow you to edit them until you get a license for it. So what you can do, you can get a license for you to be able to access it. Or if you need to access it, one way I could say is start either a trial, then look to see how it goes, then eventually purchase a license. But yeah, if your license expires, the documents go in read only. As this meeting is in Zoom, will it still be shared in Teams in the usual way? So that would be a question for Deji and Bolaji. If you could help me answer that one, please.
Yeah, the video will be shared in the general platform actually. So yeah, because this is a general meeting, not only for the internship. So, and it's going to be available on YouTube as well. So yeah, it's going to be shared on the general platform.
Okay, thank you. And going to the next question, can we have access to this video? Yeah, that's been answered. Sorry, what is the assignment for Dynamics 365? So the first assignment is to set up that developer program. Once you set it up, at the beginning of next session, next Tuesday, we'll start looking at how we can start putting some more things in there. And I can start showing you the expectation of the basics you need to know as well in there. And we carry on with the sessions. So, of course, this is the first sessions. For some of you who haven't gone through Dynamics 365, one thing I can definitely tell you is do not be daunted. This is something you can all do. So don't think, okay, yeah, this guy says so many things. I can confidently tell you, if you put your mind to it and you put the effort in, you definitely make it. But yeah, we still have, yeah, if anyone want to ask any more questions, please feel free to ask any questions there.
Sorry, Alex, how many sessions is this going to take?
So it will take 5 sessions. Then after the 5 sessions, if we need an additional one, we can add some more. But yeah, we need to add 2 more to make them 5.
Okay, 2 more.
So there's 4 more left now.
Okay, 4 more left. Okay,
yeah.
All right. Okay, and the session is going to also cover Power Apps. Is that right?
Yeah, we're going to cover Power Apps, Canvas apps, model-driven apps, and also the portal.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Any other questions from anyone?
And sorry, I just need to point out, if you're in the developer module, right, this is one course that you don't also want to miss, to be honest. So I think you need to, so we just make this one open to everybody, but it should have been for the developer module. Or if you're in the developer module, don't miss this particular session. So like I said, also, this is also going to be applicable for QAs as well. I think my second role in the UK is working with this particular tool. It's widely used actually. So, and of course, BA as well. So it's a specialized tool. So, and if you are working I know a friend that also, she works in this particular tool. It took a while for her to actually know how to actually test it. So if you can test this, you can test any to any application, to be honest. So. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, if there's no any further questions, thank you so much, everyone, for making time to join the session tonight. And one thing I can say again, I look forward to speaking to you again next Tuesday. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to bring them next week as well, or ask in the Telegram group. And yeah, one last message from me is thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you on these sessions and series. So have a good evening all. And if someone is in the morning time, good morning.
Thank you so much, Alex. Yeah, cheers.
Thank
It's
you.
good to have you. Yeah, cheers. Bye.